there! I hope you're having a wonderful day. Welcome. Have a seat, cozy up, grab a cup of tea or a cup of joe or a cup of matcha, whatever your flavor is. I got some peppermint tea in my favorite mug in the universe. Smiling is my favorite. I bought this mug a couple years ago for my birthday and I do not regret it. A few years probably. Elf is my favorite. I love it so much. Today we're gonna watch How to Increase Productivity, I'm so sorry, I'm probably gonna butcher her name, Marie FORLEO and Lewis Howes. I think, well, it's a Lewis Howes interview. I think it's from a much longer interview. This is just a 4-minute clip from it. So if you want to watch this interview, I'll link it, but I'll try to link the full interview as well if you want to watch the whole thing. But this, if you're new here, or if you're not, just a reminder, this series is all about developing self-awareness or increasing self-awareness. I know self-awareness was something that I really struggled with, and because of that I was trying to do everything, all this advice that these big people were giving or whatever, well-meaning people, and a lot of it is solid advice, but the thing is, if you're not self-aware, you're actually going to be moving forward with advice that's going to actually draw you back instead of move you forward, and it's going to be cumbersome because you're going to wear yourself out, and it's just it's all about self-awareness and knowing who you are, where you're at, where you're headed. And so the purpose of this series isn't for drama, it isn't to tear anybody down, it's to help you decide whether or not the advice that you're hearing is going to actually work for you, or if maybe it's something that you should like leave aside and pick up later, or maybe it's just not even for you at all. So let's get into it.
And then really starting to see also how much more creative and productive I was when I scaled back a little bit. And that was a really powerful realization.
Did you hear what she just said? The interview, this part hasn't even started yet. And she just said she was more productive when she scaled back. Keep that in mind as we watch this. I'm sure it's part of this interview, but if not, hopefully I remember to go back to it.
I was believing that if I didn't work constantly, that I wasn't a worthy person, that I wasn't doing enough to make my business successful.
Oh, I have been there. Still work through it sometimes. But the reality is that place actually moves you backwards instead of forwards because you're doing a bunch of busy work. I've actually done another video on it. I will try to remember to put a card. I think it's over here. Over here, wherever the cards are. I will try to remember to put a card for I reacted to the hustle scam, and it was a Sunny Lenarduzzi video, and like, oh man, when you're constantly doing that much, especially somebody who is quote unquote small business, your business is big, but like, you know, you don't serve as many people as a quote unquote big business, or somebody who is just starting out, or whatever it is. If you're working by yourself or even just have 1 or 2 people, you're trying to do pretty much everything. Startups are trying to do everything by themselves, and the reality is you can't. That's just the reality. And so you have to pick and choose what's going to move you forward and what's not. What's really going to move you forward. Not like all this busy work that you see, like tweak this picture to make it look so beautiful and put this template over here, and all of these little things that just don't matter. And you like get caught up in perfecting everything and you get burnt out. That is not the name of the game here. The name of the game is be self-aware, know what's going to move you forward, and that extra tweak on your Instagram picture probably isn't going to do anything. And now, if you love doing that stuff, do it. But the thing is, you just have to be aware of when you're starting out, you are doing everything. And if you do everything, then you're going to get burnt out. The people who are doing everything are not doing everything. They have entire teams of people helping them. That's how they're able to do everything. They're not. So, and whether it be they have a nanny, they have makeup artists, hair people, photographers, all of this stuff. So know where you're at and what's really going to move you forward. Let's get back into it.
That I was perhaps letting people down. And so I had to really shift that and understand that, you know, I come from a background, I don't come from a wealthy background. So the work ethic in my nuclear family is very strong. Like my dad owned a small business. My mom, although she stayed home with us, she was constantly doing stuff, constantly working, constantly fixing things, constantly doing things that took care of the family. So that's the kind of DNA I grew up with, was like, no, if something needs to get done, you get it done. It's not like you sit around all day and eating bonbons and watching TV. So so that's kind of how I got there. But then I had to readjust if I actually wanted to not only have a successful business, but have a successful life.
Yeah. Well, how old were you when you came to this realization that, like, okay, I can take a day off a week, or I can take 2 weeks and go to Italy? Or...
Yes. So that was probably, I may not get the dates right because time gets warped for me. But that was, I would say, well over like a decade ago, where I started making some changes, and then really starting to see also how much more creative and productive I was when I scaled back a little bit. And that was a really powerful realization, because I think often, and I understand this, and I think it's important to contextualize this, because at different stages of our life and at different stages of our creative process, we need to work in different rhythms. You know, often when you're getting something off the ground, it's kind of like a rocket ship leaving the atmosphere. It takes a lot of inertia to break free from gravity, right, to get into that upper stratosphere. So there's a lot of work required in the beginning, but then you have to adjust as you move on. And I just needed to learn that lesson. But
because you were just in like launch mode all the time.
Correct.
Like, we got to launch. I mean, not launching things, but the idea and the energy behind.
Correct.
Go.
Yep. So yeah, I think
It's
about
exhausting.
a decade ago is when I really started making some good changes and putting boundaries and bumpers in place.
So I want to touch base on that. Is she's talking about startups, and yes, startups definitely take a lot more work, because like I said, you're doing it all alone. So they do take a lot more work, but so often we can get caught up in what the experts or the gurus say and try to tweak all of these little things that aren't really moving us any forward at all. And that's where I'm saying cut out the busy work. And then as you scale your business or whatever it is that you're working on, as you scale, you do have to adjust. And it is kind of like a mind-boggling thing to have to do. But that's what they're talking about right now.
For myself. And what that means was that at the top of the year, what we do in terms of relationship, and even for the company, we do the same thing. So there's 2 points I want to make here. In terms of my personal relationship, Josh and I look at the calendar at the top of the year, and we set non-negotiable adventure time.
Wow.
So That's favorite place to go is Italy. That's my happy place. So we don't always have to go there, but it's just been a habit for like the past 4 or 5 years. And we set 2 weeks in the calendar where it's like, he doesn't accept work. You know, I tell the team, like, this is the time we're going to be away. No matter what's going on, we're just offline. That's it. And then there's other kind of smaller adventures that we plan, like adventures with friends, where, you know, have a bunch of friends up for a couple of days around a birthday or around a holiday, and like put these bumpers in place so that both him and I know that there are these solid connection moments throughout the year, that no matter.
That's actually really good advice, is to put something into place where you already have it on your calendar, or you already have it in mind, or whatever it is, so that you can be in advance. Even if you're a startup, I think most people, not everybody, some people are just like loving life in that space, but most people need a day off every once in a while. So even if you're just starting out, and again, this is a game of self-awareness, so like whatever it is that you need to do, like, yes, you do want to work really hard to get to where you want to go, because you don't want to stay stuck in the same place, but at the same time, you don't want to end up being miserable getting there, because then what's the point? Because then you're probably miserable after you get there too. So again, it's really about knowing what you need, and maybe it's just trial and error. Like, hey, I took 3 days off this month and that didn't work out so well. So let's try 2 days next month instead and see how that goes. Or, hey, I need at least 1 day off a week. And yeah, of course, if you're doing things on your own and you take time off, it's going to cause you to move a little slower. But the thing is, if you keep trying to work and work and work and work and work and never take a break and don't get enough sleep and all of those things, then you're actually reversing the productivity. You're actually reaching a point. Again, I talked about this, her Sunny Lenarduzzi actually talked about it in her video, which was linked in one of the cards. I'll try to link it below as well. Of you get to a point where you're at like the peak of production, your production, and your body's like, okay, need to rest now. So once you hit that point, if you keep working, you're just going at a steady pace, steadily sloping down pace, and so you're actually reversing how productive you are. And then once you hit a certain point, you actually like drastically decrease in productivity. So it really doesn't do you any good to just like work yourself into the ground. It's not a fun place, and it's quite stressful. Yes, I am speaking from experience. So if you have questions on this topic, leave a comment down below. I would love to help you figure things out a little bit deeper. And if you have a video you want me to react to, comment that too. You can always text me at this number right here, 708-669-4910. And I love you guys so much. And as always, dream big and take action.